Mr. Fox is again victimized. When Miss Sally's little boy went to Uncle Remus the next night to hear the conclusion of the adventure in which the rabbit made a riding horse of the fox, to the great enjoyment and gratification of Miss Meadows and the girls, he found the old man in bad humor. "I ain't telling no tales to bad chillens," said Uncle Remus curtly. "But, Uncle Remus, I ain't bad," said the little boy plaintively. "Who dat chunkin' them chickens this morning? Who dat knocking out folks' eyes with that Yalabama sling this fall dinner? Who dat sicking that pint of puppy out of my pig? Who dat scatting my in-gun sets? Who dat flinging rocks up top of my house, which a little more and one of 'em would rap and spang on my head?" "Well, now, Uncle Remus, I didn't go to do it. I won't do so any more. Please, Uncle Remus, if you will tell me, I'll run to the house and bring you some tea cakes." "Seeing 'em's better than hearing telling 'em," replied the old man, the severity of his countenance relaxing somewhat, but the little boy darted out, and in a few minutes came running back with his pockets full and his hands full. "I lay your mammy'll suspicion that the rat's stomachs is widening this neighborhood when she come for to count up her cakes," said Uncle Remus with a chuckle. "These," he continued, dividing the cakes into 2 equal parts, "these I'll tackle now, and these I'll lay by for Sunday. Let me see. I most disremember whereabouts Brer Fox and Brer Rabbit was." "The rabbit rode the fox to Miss Meadows and hitched him to the horse rack," said the little boy. "Why, 'course he did," said Uncle Remus. "'Course he did. Well, Brer Rabbit rid Brer Fox up, he did, and tied him to the rack, and then sot out in the piazza with the gals, and smoking her his cigar with more proudness than what you most ever see. They talk, and they sing, and they play on the piano, the gals did, till by and by it come time for Brer Rabbit for to be gwine, and he'd tell him all goodbye, and strut out to the horse rack, same as if he was the king of the patter rollers, and then he mount Brer Fox and ride off. Brer Fox ain't saying nothing 'tall. He just rack off, he did, and kept his mouth shut, and Brer Rabbit knowed there was business cooking up for him, and he feel monstrous skittish. Brer Fox amble on twell he get in the long lane out of sight of Miss Meadows' house, and then he turned loose, he did. He rip and he raw, and he cuss, and he swar, he snort and he cavort. "What was he doing that for, Uncle Remus?" the little boy inquired. "He was trying for to fling Brer Rabbit off in his back, bless your soul. But he just might as well wrestle with his own shadow. Every time he hump himself, Brer Rabbit slapped the spurs in him, and there they had it up and down. Brer Fox fairly to up the ground, he did, and he jumped so high and he jumped so quick that he mighty nigh snatched his own tail off. They kept on gwine on this way till by and by Brer Fox lay down and roll over, he did, and this sort of unsettled Brer Rabbit, but by the time Brer Fox got back on his footsies again, Brer Rabbit was gwine through the underbrush more samer than a racehorse. Brer Fox, he lit out at him, he did, and he pushed Brer Rabbit so close that it was about all he could do for to get in the hollow tree. Oh, too little for Brer Fox for to get in, and he had to lay down and rest and get his mind together. While he was laying there, Mr. Buzzard come flopping along, and seeing Brer Fox stretch out on the ground, he lit and viewed the premises. Then Mr. Buzzard sort of shake his wing and put his head on one side and say to himself like, says he, "Brer Fox dead, and I'm so sorry," says he. "No, I ain't dead, nudder," says Brer Fox, says he. "I got Old Man Rabbit pent up in yar," says he, and I'm gwine to git him dis time if it take 12 Christmas," says he. Then, out of some more palaver, Brer Fox make a bargain that Mr. Buzzard was to watch the hole and keep Brer Rabbit the whiles Brer Fox went out of his axe. Then Brer Fox he lope off, he did, and Mr. Buzzard he tuck up his stand at the hole. By and by, when all gets still, Brer Rabbit sort of scramble down close to the hole, he did, and holler out, "Brer Fox! Oh, Brer Fox!" Brer Fox done gone. Nobody say nothing. Then Brer Rabbit squall out like he was mad, says he. "You needn't talk less you wanter," says he. "I knows you're there, and I ain't caring," says he. "I just want to tell you that I wish mighty bad Brer Tucky Buzzard was here," says he. Then Mr. Buzzard tried to talk like Brer Fox. "What you want with Mr. Buzzard?" says he. Nothing in particular, except there's the fattest gray squirrel that you ever see," says he. "And if Brer Tucky Buzzard was round, he'd be mighty glad for get him," says he. "How Mr. Buzzard's gwine to get him?" says the Buzzard, says he. "Well, there's a little hole round on the other side of the tree," says Brer Rabbit, says he. "And if Brer Tucky Buzzard was here, so he could take up his stand there," says he, "I'd drive that squirrel out," says he. "Drive him out, then," says Mr. Buzzard, says he, "and I'll see that Brer Tucky Buzzard gets him," says he. Then Brer Rabbit kick up a racket like he was driving something out, and Mr. Buzzard he rushed round for to catch the squirrel, and Brer Rabbit he dash out, he did, and he just fly for home. At this point, Uncle Remus took one of the tea cakes, held his head back, opened his mouth, dropped the cake in with a sudden motion, looked at the little boy with an expression of astonishment, and then closed his eyes and began to chew, mumbling as an accompaniment the plaintive tune of "Don't You Grieve Out of Me." The séance was over, but before the little boy went into the big house, Uncle Remus laid his rough hand tenderly on the child's shoulder and remarked in a confidential tone, "Honey, you must get up soon Christmas morning and open the door, 'case I'm going to bounce in on Mars John and Miss Sally and haul a Christmas gift just like I used to in during the farming days 'fore the war, when old Miss was live. I bound they don't forget the old nutter. When you hear me calling the pigs, honey, you just hop up and unfasten the door. I lay I'll give Mars John one of these surprise parties."